back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with the Man the Guns DLC. And of course we're playing as Britain because we are experimenting with the naval war. We've seen some nutty things happen, but we will continue this. You get up there. I'm really wondering how much of Asia we can hold from the Japanese attacks. They're still bogged down in China. And we have another unit here. Okay. And Luxembourg leader offers his service. Now, one thing I'm wondering here is... He's pilot promoted, very good, okay. Now, what I don't think is reflected in the game, but was a very real historical thing. You don't want a submarine with mines on it to get depth charged, okay? Because as you could probably imagine, at some point when you're either just before you leave harbor, or say maybe the day before, the night before, whatever, you go in to lay the mines, you're going to go out and activate the mines so that they're, you know, live, and then because you need to have access to the mines, so you need to be surfaced or in some other way, because it depends on how they're doing. They're normally on racks that are external to the pressure hull, so you don't want to go in for torpedo attacks on any enemy vessels while you have live mines on your submarines. But I don't think that's going to affect us. So what we're going to do here is put these guys for convoy raiding here, and I want to see about that. Mine the Straits of Malacca. That's down here. Yeah, unfortunately some of my, well, yeah, right now I'm going to continue until we get full up here in the East China Sea. We'll see about getting down to the Straits of Malacca. MSI produces some really good stuff. My first landing, I think it would be in Denmark, but, well, I'm not going to be landing on the continent of Europe at all until Germany is like at war with the Soviet Union or something. That just is not in my plan of operations. I've been hoping that they would try to invade Norway. But they haven't yet, because I wanted to defeat them there, of course. Sicily is a possibility. Here. Take them out. And of course, other possibilities are Sardinia and Corsica. Having some geese fly over. How interesting. But I'm reluctant to... We'll do some more strategic bombers. We're doing 2 a month right now. Production levels, which aren't very much. I'm reluctant to do to tie down too much of my land forces until we see how well we can deal with Japan. Speaking of that, since we're no longer battling in North Africa, let's speed this up a little bit more. They're bombing me. Maybe let's... Yeah, well, we are getting some more Spitfires, Sea Gladiators. Okay, we'll put, okay, Danish Exile Leader. We'll put these guys up, and just we're going with these, and they're going to focus on going after bombers. Now we need more rubber, which we'll get from British Malaya, or British Raj, actually. And so I was talking before we started with Brett about the new DLC. Some of the stuff I love is like I'm able to exclude these C zones so that, yeah, if there's no other path that they can find that I'm telling it to do something like supply Gibraltar, I mean Malta, they will send in a supply convoy into this zone that I said not to go into. But they won't send supplies to, say, Alexandria from here, because I told them not to go here, so they'll send that supply convoy all the way around Africa into there like I want to. So that kind of stuff. So if we were Germany, and I want to play with Germany with this, whether with Black Ice or not, we could try something like, tell it not to go through this C zone, not to go through this C zone, but, obviously can go through Iceland and around here, and through, here and here, to try to then trade with Japan or some place like that, and to see if we can send convoys in a path that avoids being intercepted. Okay, go handle your dog. And let's see, we just got this. Well, multi-agility, yeah, that sounds like a plan. With our Commonwealth bonus, it'll happen faster. So yeah, this is, to a point, a quiet time in our campaign. Okay, you're in a port, so I can send you. I might as well send you this way. You guys. Come to Singapore. Invade Madagascar. That's a good plan. Okay, it's been years, and I mean by like 20 years or more, and I still have it somewhere because I keep all my old magazines. Not those type of magazines. Keep all my old history and military magazines. The British did invade Madagascar, and you know, okay, and this is trying to simulate. This is a tough business. And I've already been bitching and moaning about things, of course. Things like, why isn't there a seaport over here for Vichy, France? Don't know. So yeah, as you can tell, I can find many things to bitch about in this game. And so, historically, and I don't have all of the dates down. The dates are important. But historically, of course, France leaves the war. And it isn't forming, it isn't, okay, so it's not, France surrenders and sets up a government in Vichy. It isn't the Vichy government. The Republic has already fallen, and Pétain, before the surrender, Pétain is put in charge of France. Like, what the hell to do? Pétain has been warning about the German menace well before Third Reich events. I put a speech that he does down in Marseille, or some other, I think it was Marseille, but somewhere in the south of France. In like 1936 or 37, he's warning about the dangers of Nazi Germany and that really war is coming, basically. So he is not a defeatist or a collaborationist at heart. And if we know anything about French government during this time period leading up to this, governments are falling, governments are coalitions. A little before the 36 time period, sort of in the early 30s, there's really sort of I think it was 34, but I'm not sure, sort of a bit of a fascist revolt going on in France that, nowhere near succeeding, but compared to, say, I don't know, the Silver Shirts in America or the BFU in BUF in Britain, those two organizations are a minuscule percentage. The Silver Legion, the Silver Shirts, whatever you want to call them in America, they're a fascist organization. They don't even get near to 1% of, not even, let alone vote, but of, I would say, of popularity in America. Now, a 0.5% or 1/4% of popularity in America at this time can be 1 million supporters or something. I don't quite know the American population level, in 1930s America. But so even less than 1% could mean, a dominant political force in a country like Belgium or Denmark or something like that. So there can be lots and lots of people, but compared to the idea that Mosley is getting near to taking over Britain with his fascists in any of this time period, is a ludicrous farce. Okay, and I know there's economic reasons because of their player base from, and I'll say this again for Paradox, from EU, Crusader Kings, and Vichy. They like these big sandboxy games, and that's really cool. And if we were looking at a 100-year time period game, starting out in 1900, maybe depending on the way things go, by 1940, you could have the fascists in power in Britain. You could, but that's not the historical realities in the 30s that these games is set in. So, like in those two things, it's nowhere near coming to power. And it's not really that coming to power in the early 30s in France either, because they're sort of trying, I think, and I'm sketchy on some of this, partially because it isn't in the time period in which I've been looking at for making events. So things happening before, I don't dig into them just because I'm not, it's not set in the game. So, but there is this sort of fascist situation, and there's sort of some street battles and things going on. So France is really unstable. The French government during the 30s, their biggest fear, their primary fear for whether it's them in power or that they fear to the French Republic, their biggest fear is the French army. They're more afraid of the French army than anything else. So a government that's more afraid of its army than any of its possible attackers is a bit screwed up. And the defense mechanism that and I didn't realize this when I was making the event for it. The defense mechanism for the French government is they don't want a professional French army. They want a mass conscript army that they feel would be loyal to their state. A professional army, they're afraid, might commit a coup against them. Obama. What was that? I don't know. I coughed there. But so they're afraid of this. So this is why when de Gaulle writes his book, basically translated in English as something like Towards a Professional Army, which he tries to get his armored doctrine sort of to be approved or looked at by the French High Command. They go, no thank you, basically, or words to that effect or something, maybe without the thank you part of it. And so he decides to publish it, and he decides to title it Towards a Professional Army. And so that completely invalidates the idea of an armored force in the French army for the French defense minister, the political head of the army, because, this is a professional army. The one thing we don't want is a professional army, because we're afraid of the professional army more than we're afraid of Germany, more than we're afraid of nationalist Spain, or for a while, fascist Italy as their allies until 1936 or late 1935. They're more afraid of a professional army than anybody who may be attacking them. So, and we see how that works out. But so you have this situation in which France is unstable, lots of different causes to it. The French Republic falls basically after Paris falls, which they declare open city. They move the government to Bordeaux, however you want to pronounce that. And Pétain is put in charge of it. Like, well, what do we do now? And Churchill, of course, is flying back and forth to this government, trying to convince them to stay in the war, goddammit. Just stay in the war, just keep fighting. Withdraw as much forces from France as you can. Get as much stuff out there. We can hold in North Africa, whatever. He's desperately trying to keep France in the war. France leaves the war under Pétain. Pétain, I judge, and I've watched some documentaries, including some stuff that was shot back in the 70s by the BBC, but interviewing a bunch of Frenchmen that were involved in the various governments, Free French government, the Vichy government. And looking at that, I don't harshly judge Pétain for his collaboration. I do harshly judge Pierre Laval. He is a bastard, and we could get into other bad words for him. But Pétain is trying to do his best. He's an old man, which means, I don't want to mean it as a way like he isn't dealing with reality. Oh, he's dealing with reality, but it's sort of like, life's happened to him. Let's try to ride this out. It's not necessarily a lot of energy. It's try to save what you can kind of attitude. And that's how I sort of mean this, not as in a degrading him, as it may sound, or something like that. So he's trying to do this. So he sets up the government. It moves to Vichy. It's a spa town, and as somebody pointed out, it had a lot of hotels. And it was in the non-occupied zone. So they figured, and this was going to, because Germany wants to control the coast, or the Atlantic coast. So they got to leave Bordeaux. And so they want a place that they can move the government to, and basically move it into all the hotels in Vichy. Is sort of why they picked that there. And I know we're talking a lot about the Vichy here, but I hope it's interesting. and I'm talking about how the game simulates this stuff. Okay, so Vichy is out of the war. Well, like de Gaulle goes to the airport when the government's still in Bordeaux just to see Churchill off. Basically his last flight out. Churchill's going to leave. He's just going. He tells everybody, "I'm just going to take Churchill to the airport to see him off." And at the last moment, and it's already sort of planned out, and they sort of whisper it to each other before going to the airport. He jumps on the airplane and takes off because the French government will try to stop de Gaulle from leaving, and they know it. So de Gaulle basically deserts in the face of the enemy. He's a deserter. I mean, there's no two ways to put it. Now, that doesn't mean that de Gaulle isn't a good guy, and it doesn't mean that he shouldn't have deserted. But that's what he does. He just deserts his post. This isn't like, oh, I'm in charge of, the French Congo here, and I'm shifting my loyalty from the Vichy government to the Free French government or something like that. This is deserting his post in the face of the enemy because they were still at war with Germany at the time. So he deserts, and of course sets up the Free French government, which isn't really much of a government, but it's a military in exile kind of thing. And that's sort of the mechanics that we're facing here. They're doing okay now. So Vichy basically goes to peace. Now, the big thing happens is the French fleet. A good chunk of the French fleet is in Toulon. Some of it is in Oran and one of the other sort of port cities, not like outside of here. Good chunk of it is there, and then some of it is out in Dakar and a few other places. Well, it's the main one in North Africa, and I'm blanking on the name. I don't know if any of you are going to pop up and give me. It's Pitan, if I'm not saying it right. Pitan. My B's and P's may not be distinguishable. Yeah, no, not it's I think it starts with an A or T. That's but not Tunis. But maybe it's not Alger. It's not this. It's in Spain. No. Is Abukar? Oh God, where Churchill orders the French fleet to be interred in a British port, basically, because they're worried about it going over to German control. They're not really worried about French sailors. They're worried about German sailors and French ships. Well, they don't comply, so the British sink, out and out sink, and kill about 1,000 plus French sailors. Now, does that mean Vichy's at war with the Allies? Because if we notice at this earlier on, immediately Vichy's at war, and so immediately Germany is starting to send troops into North Africa, and I moved quickly to secure Syria, but they send troops into Syria as well. Mirs al-Kabir, that's it. Arno got it. Good. Mirs al-Kabir. Sorry, it's I think near one of these major cities, but it's sort of like a naval port that's on the outskirts of that. Mirs al-Kabir. That's it. Thank you, Arno. And so they sink that. Now, does that mean that they're at war? Well, not really just yet. But what happens is there much of the French Air Force is dismantled, but they still have, the Vichy still have a bit of an Air Force. They have a bunch of American planes that had shown up in the last days of the war, but were still in crates at the end of the war that the Vichy assemble at some point. So American bombers, and they use those American bombers to bomb Gibraltar as retaliation. Don't do much damage, but they bomb Gibraltar. Now that's sort of going on, and then 1941, and I'm pretty sure it's after the Mirs al-Kabir situation. But at some point after, and it may even be early 42, after America's in. But at some point here, also you get in 1940, of course. Now this is incorrect that this is Free French. This should be under Vichy, and it should be given over to Japan's tender mercies. But you have two situations. One, you have a British invasion of Lebanon and Syria, in which there is real fighting. This is the sort of the interesting historical part about it. And we're all getting to Madagascar. I know this is taking a long time. Sorry about that. But this is the story of it. This is the one time that there is a real battle between the French Foreign Legion and the French Foreign Legion. One element is the, supporting the local Vichy government. The other element has been French Foreign Legion troops working down here with the British. And there is a little bit of French troops, but mostly it's the French Foreign Legion, small units, and British troops in. And there's some real battles. People die. They're not huge battles because there's not huge amounts of Vichy forces. And they don't fight very hard, but they fight. So they sort of secure this, and there's battles there. Does that mean Vichy's at war? Well, this all happens before the 1942 torch operation coming in here. Because once the Americans and the British, there's also a British landing too, once they secure here, all the rest of the colonies go over to Free French, because Germany does the, I forget the name, but occupying the rest of Vichy. So this is before the U.S. landings. Now they're also worried about, because this is, the Vichy forces, there are some Vichy forces or French forces that are withdrawn from Indochina, but some stay and are basically sort of disarmed, but not put in prison camps or anything, to the best of my knowledge, by the Japanese. They're just in their barracks. I don't even know if they have rifles. They definitely don't have any heavy equipment, and they just continue to exist under Japanese occupation. And I think much of, shall we say, the civil law enforcement elements, including French, but also, local Vietnamese types, continue to function, be the local policemen. And that, compared to other areas, it's a relatively light hand of Japanese occupation. So it's sort of a mixed French-Japanese occupation. What they're worried about is, and this is why it happens fairly early, is this being used either overtly or covertly as a Japanese base for submarines to do commerce raiding in the Indian Ocean and potentially beyond, because the Japanese definitely can. Now, there's one thing that the Western allies don't really realize, and I don't ever think that ever really, institutionally dawns on them, that the Japanese have no interest in commerce raiding with their submarines. There are a few Japanese submarine commanders that understand this, and they do a few missions of convoy raiding, few into the Indian Ocean. But when, like, I know the particularly early war Japanese submarine operations off the Pacific coasts, they don't ever, I don't think, ever launch any torpedoes at any American ships, because their torpedoes, and it gets back to my reading, later reading of Japanese Destroyer Captain, that's the name of the book, and how they're, even at the start of the war, they're desperately worried about ammunition, and don't waste ammunition. Don't waste ammunition. Don't waste ammunition. Your first shots from your destroyers or whatever have got to be hitting the target, because we just don't have enough ammunition to be missing the enemy. And that's just, so that's part of it. And so part of it is the Japanese ethos is, we have to destroy the enemy combat fleet. It's not a lack of, will you be, well, okay, Brett, see you. thanks for playing. Hope to see you maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. We'll be around. Oh, we'll be back. Well, if we're still here, and you're back, of course. So it's partially the ammunition conservation. It's partially, and again, it's not a squeamishness about killing civilians. It's the desire to sink the enemy's military vessels. The reason I say I don't think they ever fired a torpedo is because I don't think they ever had a good shot at an American destroyer or battleship or anything like that off the U.S. coast when they were operating here. So they're like sailing along and seeing an American merchant vessel unescorted and surfacing and using their gun at it. And they shell some oil fields in this area. They shell up in Oregon. I bet. We don't need the gory details. So, cleaning up dog poo is what he was doing, in my understanding. So, and it's one of the main reasons I don't have a dog. I like dogs, but I don't want to clean up after them. I don't know. That's not something I want to do as a routine thing. So, Japan has basically institutionally, even in their submarine corps, institutionally, again, there are renegade captains who want to go sink enemy merchant vessels. And they sort of may be dawning on them at the last stages of the war. But institutionally, and that's more of a desperation thing at the last stages of war than anything else, because they're, you know, unable to get in and sink large. Yeah, no, we don't. We don't want the details. So they missed the point, but you know, I mean, so that, you know, because they know what they would do. The British knows what's happening to them, and whenever they can, they sink Italian merchant vessels in the Mediterranean and German merchant vessels, you know, coming around Norway or wherever. So since they want to sink merchant vessels, they presume the Japanese want to. So yes, we're getting to it. They invade. Oh, where? Maybe it was up here. They invade Madagascar. There are some French tanks. I'm not sure whether they were FT-17s or the Renault R-35s. I think they were the R-35s, but they were the small two-man tanks, either type. So I think there were some R-35s sent down to the Vichy government. Pretty sure they were the 35s. But again, I'm saying this article I read was more than 20 years ago, so I'm fuzzy on some of the details. But they, you know, and like in a platoon strength or two, you know, less than company or less down tanks. And so there was real fighting between the British invaders and the Vichy forces at this time. And it isn't like to the death or, you know, to the last man. It's just fighting until one side is winning. And then that other side, you know, that battle, they either withdraw or, you know, or give up, you know, surrender. And so it's not a, you know, a grudge on either side. It's not a grudge match to the death, but it's a fight. It's a real fight to whoever gets into a position of being victorious. And then they, it ends it. So there really was this. Now, to the other part of this, is Vichy ever at war with the Allies? Well, they never really use their fleet. They keep the fleet from ever going, because we've been seeing, yeah, we're planning on invading Madagascar. I guess I could have just said that, and that would have been it. But taking a while to get there. But I'm trying to go. So they keep the Vichy fleet never going after the British fleet. They never send the submarines out after the British ships. They make sure that the Vichy fleet that is in Toulon, when Germans come into occupy, is basically all sunk. So it's really hard to sort of simulate all this stuff. And so, you know, I'm conflicted over this. When the Allies landed in a small town in southern France, they only met a person on the beach handing out wine. Yeah, Now that's, of course, if you're talking about the landings, the Anvil landings down here, that's much later in 44, July, August, something like that, in 44. So the French were, there was no longer any real Vichy other than hardcore collaborationist types that were opposing it. So send the dog. Okay, so we have ace pilot. Okay, well, what we're going to do here is now we're going to change our. No. Well, that then changes my plan again. Just easier to go. Come to this island, yes. So you come to this island. We're going to. Where are you going? What the hell are you doing? Okay, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Convoy escorting, right? No? Trolling? I don't know. Okay, so we have the Singapore strategy, national focus. We want to do these early enough so that they'll be useful. So now we're going to do landward fortifications. Too friendly to park. Okay, now we are bringing in a lot more fuel than we're using. So let's come over here and reduce that down some, which will get us some more factories. Probably battlefield fleet concentration. Very good. Sea blockade, convoy escorts. That would be good. Yeah, Labradors are fun dogs. They like to retrieve things. Okay, we're gonna get rid of that. Come down here now that we no longer need you. Over here. Guess that's the same spot. Probably Blondie would win. I don't know. Now, I don't know where we want to send these guys. Do we want to have them in? Yeah, I guess we do. Well, still a little worried about enemy invasions. I'm still not sure how much we need to have armor facing the Japanese in the jungles and places like that. So you guys come to Rangoon. Infantry will do all right there. Are they battling me out here? How interesting. Uh-oh. We lost a division. We had 6. Now we only have 5. No, we want to... Yeah, convoy escort here. Put them out on that duty. You guys come out on that duty as well. Oh, we took out a submarine there. Another submarine, but they took out a transport. So, what do we have here? Let's see. We want to... put you guys out here on naval strike. Maybe they'll go after some submarines. I've thought about Enzig, and sort of on a to-do list. I've not heard of Ragnarok, the mod. I understand the end of days thing, Viking mythology wise, but oh, that is silly. I don't need silly mods. I am fine with a reasonably well thought out Kaiserreich, sorry, reasonably well, you know, that's reasonably well thought out, and there's some sort of internal logic to it all. I'm okay with that, but just I don't play this just to like play a game that's challenging to play. You know, if you just want to play Risk, you know, okay, play Risk. But I want to play something based in World War II. And to me, like you're talking about Downfall or whatever, the only reason those things may be contemplated is that they are the game's broken. Okay, you're not doing anything, are you? No. So let's put you convoy rating here. Gonna see if we get anybody. Okay. Well, we don't need much air experience. We're getting plenty of that. Okay, I guess we'll do... Okay, so far we have the Singapore, Hong Kong Defense Forces down here. Now let's improve our refineries. Okay, some more battles. Sunk a submarine. Sunk a submarine and they sunk a two transports. Shot down some of their fighters. They got some transports. So they're doing reasonably well so far. It's probably partially my fault. They're repairing. What is their normal? I don't know what their normal operational area is. How badly are they shot up at just the light cruiser? Okay, we're going to send them over to here. How is our air battle doing over? England is doing pretty well. We're still not winning it over the channel. Okay, we got 396 fighters up there. No support planes, obviously, no anti-aircraft. They got 500. Support going after my, ground attack type and anti. 450 fighters, so no wonder they're winning there. Okay, well, so be it. How's this here? No, we don't currently have anything over there. Why don't we have anything over there? Let's shift you to the Aegean Sea, since we no longer control anything over the land. Okay, well, they got 545 enemy fighters. Wow. Well, we've lost one here, and they lost two, and now. Yep, I need more planes. Well, we're constantly trying to... Okay, we keep going into the gladiators. Well, we got a bunch of hurricanes now. Yeah, that would probably be the thing. Let's put these guys up here, and we're going to send them after bombers. Yes, more. And we need more rubber. There we go. Okay, we are full up on fuel. Okay, but we're just a little bit over consumption. That's all right. Yugoslav exile leaders. You have returned. Very good. Okay, landward fortifications is done. Peninsula War. Singapore, land fort provinces in the state, airbase, Malaya adds. Okay. Sanction Japan. Well, we're not trying to poke them harder. Hong Kong, I just, we might be able to hold out if we did all that, but I was unsure of getting there in time, and I thought this was a more important one. See, I don't even know about this. Do we even want to do in a province in the state, Singapore? Let's look at Singapore. We already have a bunch of forts. Not in every province. I think it's like all those border provinces. The problem I have with this is if we put a bunch of forts around, well, we need to occupy them. If we don't occupy them, then the enemy gets to occupy them, and when we want to counterattack, they get to defend in the forts. That's what I actually sort of like about Strategic Command World War II game, is that when you battle for a fort, and you know there's an enemy in a fortified hex in that game, and you battle for it and you defeat the enemy, the forts are destroyed, so you don't get the fortification bonus. Now, if you occupy an empty province that has a fort, you do get to occupy the fort. So I sort of like that, and this is sort of a double-edged sword here. So I don't know. Okay, we have control of these guys. Okay, good. And see, like here, do we want to really even occupy that province? Or do we just want to give it up to the Japanese and hold those three? So those are sort of what my considerations are. Oh, is Siam? No, but I think we have. Let's look at this. Secure the Philippines. Ooh, they're moving to secure the Philippines. Okay, alliance with Siam. They could get that. As faction leader, Siam exists. Japan invite Siam into the greater. Okay, so they've already sort of bypassed that. Secure the Philippines. Strike the southern resource area. That'll be them coming to war with us. They're getting close to that in June here. If they continue straight down here, they'll be here very shortly. So I like that graphic. I don't know that it's worth us trying to deal with Siam. I just don't know that it's worth us to do so. We don't control that, and I don't really want troops there. Okay, good guys. Okay, you guys come from here to here. I think this will be the fastest way to get them over here. Yeah. So far we have Chinese allies. We did a Burma road opening. A Royal Navy in the Pacific is very light. And I don't even know if I want to try to... Oh, we got these guys here. And these are... no, they're not mine layers. But we can put them out here as... convoy raiders, I think. There we go. Who's the convoy escort force? Oh, this is the same. No. Okay, you see all these things down here. We have all this stuff. Okay, what we're going to do here is come here, cancel the mission. And we're going to, is it Alt? No, Shift. There we go. Okay, what we need to do here is break these guys out into their own thing here, and then send them up here to convoy raid, because I don't want to get the guys that are escorting convoys here also to think they need to escort convoys over here. That's a little bit of a flaw with this. Yeah, I don't know about exercising them, but we're putting these guys out. These are our ally shipping. Yeah, what are you currently doing? You're on strike force. Oh, I'll probably need to break these guys into their own thing if I'm going to use them out here. Well, let's... Okay, this is the home fleet. We were battling off here some forces, so we're going to send them... let's stop this mission here for you guys and come back up to here. I definitely like the idea of having some ships that are okay. American destroyer squadrons, yes. Yeah, you come up and work in there. And okay, I don't know that we need to keep laying mines here, so we're going to stop that operation, and we're going to send you guys over here to Singapore. Whether to mine layer, convoy raid, not sure. These. Stop those operations. Well, let's come out to here to try to operate in there. These are just, they're all trying to protect these convoy routes here, hopefully more successfully than we have. Okay, sunk a submarine. Sunk a submarine, very good. Stay sunk a transport, convoy, whatever you want to call it. We sunk another submarine. Liking the new naval warfare, particularly in some of this aspects. So yeah, I fully approve of the new DLC. Hasn't fixed all the problems. We're still thinking about it. I'm going to skip this for the moment, I think. For Tazard mission, that would help out getting America going. I think we're going to do New Zealand here. But with that, we're going to end the episode. Not the live stream, people. We're going to keep that going. But those of you watching later on YouTube, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Love hearing from you, so please post questions, comments, suggestions. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.